So between the events of First World War from 1914-1918 to the coming up of the Second World War in 1932, in the course of event, we notice over here that there has been rise of fascism and narcissism as two major, you can say that these were two major aggressive form of ideologies which were developed in part of Europe. You can write down these are the aggressive ideologies of nationalism. Right? What does it means? It means that there is total hatred for other land. What we will see over here, that ultimately fascism, this will be formed in Italy under Mussolini, and narcissism will be formed in Germany under the leadership of Hitler. Right? I've already discussed this was between your World War II and it was between your World War I phenomena. Now understand this. What does this word means? Apart from this, it is said that both these ideologies, they had ultimately denied the conception of both democracy and both socialism. What they had advocated is that autocratic military rule under a visionary leader, Mussolini and Hitler. Is it clear? Apart from this, we also see that narcissism will be an extreme form, more extreme form than fascism. Okay, there will be this conception of racial supremacy which you will see with Hitler, right? So what happened, basically it is said that these both ideologies had developed because of the appeasement policy also, not because. One of the factor over here is that the policy of appeasement followed by Britain and France that had led to emergence of such aggressive ideologies in this part of Europe. Another thing, in case of Germany, we will see that Treaty of Versailles, right? What Hitler is going to do, he is going to tore away the whole Treaty of Versailles, and he will try to remilitarize the German lands again. Okay, let's very quickly see over here. This word fascism, it comes from a word fasco. Okay, it comes from the word fascico, which means bundle of sticks, right? And it is said that in Italy it was formed by the patriotist, fascist party under Mussolini. What were the factors which led to growth of fascism? So over here when I'm saying that it denied the conception of democracy, you can write that these ideologies, they believed in anti-democracy, because they will be objecting the ideology of the allied forces. First thing over here is that the cause for growth of fascism was the outcome of the Paris conditions or the Paris Peace Conference. The second thing which we notice over here is the economic crippling conditions at that time which were prevalent in Europe. The third thing which we notice over here is spread of socialism, right? Fourth thing, it is dissatisfaction with the government. Fifth thing we notice over here is the leadership under Benito Mussolini. So let's very quickly see over here what happened in this Paris Peace Congress. That Italian, they claimed over certain territories and their claim was rejected. Is it clear? And a Treaty of London 1915 was signed with Britain and France. It was rejected by the US President Woodrow Wilson, because Woodrow Wilson was wanting more stable international government at that time in the world. Now what happened? Italians, they were ultimately disappointed. They felt very deceived by the Allied forces. And what happened that such dissatisfaction added to the prevailing discontent which had already been caused by loss of men and property in the war. What happened? Italy, it took the outcomes of Paris Peace Conference as a treachery, and it decided to unite again, and it decided that it is going to avenge away this humiliation which has been forced upon Italy by the Allied powers. Is it clear? Second one, the economic conditions. It is said that the national debt of Italy, it had mounted enormously, which means it rose beyond the repaying capacity of the government. It is also said that this Treaty of Versailles, it had added 1.6 million people along with 9,000 square miles of territories to Italy. Now, if there are people who are coming, then there has to be enough food to be provided to these people, what they are going to eat. On the economic front, it is said that Italian currency, it has devalued by 70% over here. The Italian, they were all-time high, which was clubbed with heavy unemployment, and already these people were coming in the Italian lands. Thus, the economic condition of Italy, they were miserable, right? Which had further been aggravated by absence of any sound economic policy which existed during that time. Now, third thing which we notice over here is the rise of socialism in Italy. Now understand that we see over here that the rising inequality in Italian society, over here the people, they had been promised by the socialists to redistribute the national income along with the economic development of peasants and workers. This means that Italy initially, which was with the Allied powers, it was having this ideological shift to the communist or you can say socialism concept of society, right? And we had already discussed what was this concept of socialism. We had seen that here the state intervenes the market. Okay, there is no presence of free market, and this state redistributes the produce equally among the society. And what happened? This had widened when the Social Democrats, they managed to gain the seats in the Italian elections in 1919. Socialism in Italy, it took a radical form in form of fascism, which talked about there is going to be one pact, one leader. Okay, one pact is going to be there. It said that there is going to be one leader and there is going to be no opposition, and such that the fascist party workers, they themselves began to oppose this concept of socialism, right? They, after a certain point of time, that it is going to interfere in their authority. Now, dissatisfaction had grown with the constitutional monarchy, which we had observed was earlier under with Victor Emmanuel. We had seen in unification of Italy, there were three people. There was Garibaldi, who united the southern part of Italy. There was Mazzini, whose revolutionary ideas moved around the Italy. And the third one was Count de Cavour. So all these three people, they united Italy under Victor Emmanuel. We had seen this. Now, however, it is said that his government was proved incapable of handling the economic and the political crisis. It was leading to First World War. Is it clear? Now, gradually what happens? The Italian government, it got weaker, and the situation was utilized by Mussolini to fill the leadership vacuum through his powerful and charismatic personality. Is it clear? From here, it is based that he gave this concept over here. Okay, Mussolini, he had given it this concept over here that the state is complete. He said this thing, okay? According to Mussolini, state is complete while the people of the state, they are incomplete. What does this depict? It depicts that he had completely turned away the whole concept of democracy. He had completely developed a entire democratic concept of government. What happened? Again, Mussolini, he participated in the First World War as a soldier, following his insistence that it should definitely join the war on the side of Allies, right? But eventually he started opposing both communism and democracy, and he formed a new fascist party and which held the elections in 1919 in Italy. Is it clear? Now, the supporters and the members of this fascist party, they came to be known as black shirts, and these were equipped with arms under the command of Mussolini. And it is also said that this party had its own flag. So what is happening? Whatever they fought over here, right? Now they are pushing, they are against this concept of constitution. And what they are pushing forward, what does this depict? That they are pushing for aggressive powers in Italy, because Italy, it felt cheated because of the allied powers when the territories were distributed. And then we will see that there is ultimately the rise of fascist rule in Italy. Soon it gained popularity in Italy, and he said that he is going to make Italy strong again. What these workers did, they basically captured the government offices in Rome, and a charter of the demands was presented by the fascist party. And what were these demands? These parties, they wanted to frame a new constitution. These parties, they had forfeited the church property. They did not wanted the religion to interfere in the church. They had talked about universal franchise. They had talked about the nationalization of the factories over here. We also saw that confiscation of surplus money has been from the capitalist and the industrialist. They will go against this market economy. State is everything. State is complete, I said, and the individual is incomplete. This would be the policy followed by them. There was also a provision of 8 hours of work in the factories. Is it clear? So what happens? Ultimately, these fascists, they capture the offices of the communist and other socialists. And how do they do this? By the forceful means. And a charter of demand had received approval at Naples in October 1922. Is it clear? Now what happened? That they also have adopted a aggressive foreign policy. This was done in context of the domestic policies. In the foreign policies, we see that aggressive foreign policy had been started, and it followed a new cabinet with induction of these fascist members. And it is said that these fascist members, they marched to Rome led by Mussolini. They captured all the government offices, and the king, right, he was promulgated to the martial law, and Mussolini was asked to form a government ultimately in 1922, and by this he obtained a legal constitutional appointment from the king. So this gaining of power was done by force over here. And when he becomes the Prime Minister of Italy, what does he do? He takes various stern actions against those who don't qualify themselves as fascist. What he does? Administrative reforms. You understand what is happening, that all these people, they are coming together and they are trying to capture the whole power. Ultimately, he is going to lead to abolishing of the trade unions. All the powers of the parliament, they were ultimately taken up by him. There was this infamous dacoit of Naples and Sicily, they were arrested. Only the faithful followers of Mussolini, they were appointed as the minister, and the attempts were made to improve the socio-economic conditions of the workers. All that was done was for the party. It was depicting, these administrative reforms were depicting one pact and one party rule. Is it clear? Now, also it is said that he had adopted various harsh measures, and he did this against his opponents. What did he do? He had emphasized that there should be absolute power of the state where individuals have minimal rights. Now you understand that the concept of Renaissance had itself started from Italy, where they're talking about human dignity and human rights. And what is happening over here? that state is getting all powerful. You are reaching a level again of a super autocratic state. Okay. What happened? What did he do with his opponents? First of all, he had banned all the political parties by 1926. Freedom of press had been totally curbed. Police department, it acquired the enormous power. Military state, basically. Opposition members, they were put in jail. System of cabinet had been dismantled, that nobody could come after it, and only the fascist lawyers, they were allowed to handle any kind of cases. Is it clear? So what happens that ultimately, after coming to power, what is he doing? He is crushing and he is leading to a situation that everything is for the party. Is it clear? We will also see over here, ultimately, one major point is that after Italy, after there is deterioration of Italy's relation with France and Britain, we notice that they, or these people in Italy, they had formed a Rome Berlin Tokyo axis. Please note down this point because this will become a cause to your World War II. Is it clear? I hope the concept of pacifism has been totally clear over here. Okay. The power was taken by Mussolini by hook or by crook. Now, Nazism in Germany. Now, you can say that it was a version of fascism, but you can say it was a more strict version of fascism, which had been popularized by Adolf Hitler during the interwar period. Now, what happened basically in the case of Italy, we had noticed that it felt cheated because of the Allied powers not giving it enough of the territories which it required. But what was the issue with Germany? It was that the humiliating Treaty of Versailles. This was the major bone of contention, and what happened because of this, Germany had to lose its multiple territories, right? And it had to pay heavy reparation to compensate for the damage that was caused during the war. And Germany, because of this, felt complete injustice to what had been done to it. And consequently, what happened? A nationalist wave ran throughout Germany, which demanded vengeance for the unjust imposition of the Treaty of Versailles. Now, see over here. After this, what happens? Ultimately, in Germany, an election is held, and this is between the parties, and the Social Democratic Party, which wants the election, and it drafts a constitution in Germany, which is also known as Weimar Republic. This is happening, but there is a revolt against this Weimar government, and there was another revolt which was organized under the guidance of Hitler. Is it clear? And it is said that during this time, when Hitler had been arrested, he wrote his autobiography, Mein Kampf, which later had become the manifesto of the Nazi Party. Now, let's see very quickly over here what were the factors for growth of narcissism in Italy. First is your economic crisis which had been happening. Second is your war reparations. Now, what is this economic crisis? What happened that inflation had arisen or rose a lot high, and the government, it was faced to take loans from multiple countries. The currency ultimately in Italy had completely devalued, and this had led to high unemployment rate. There were multiple war reparations, and Germany, it had to pay a heavy amount of money as a reparation under the Treaty of Versailles. And Germany, it was held also responsible for World War One. Now, German army, German armed force, even it had to be reduced to 1 lakh. We had already seen it lost even the Rhinelands, it has lost even the Saar Valley, it has lost even the Alsace and Lorraine to France. Is it clear? Now what happens? There is coming up of Davies plan. What happens following the imposition of this reparation? The German government made an appeal to reduce its amount, and consequently United States of America, under the leadership of its finance minister, it suggested a few change in Treaty of Versailles, which is known as Davies plan. But what happens ultimately, because of all this, it was Hitler who had this strong belief that it was the Jews and it was the communists who were majorly responsible for the defeat of Germany. And what did he do? While Germany, it was already going through this political and economical crisis, Hitler had promised that Germany would be getting back its old golden days, and he starts the complete formation of the party, which is Nazi, also known as National Social German Labour Party, along with his